Hey, thanks for tuning into the show. And also, make sure with so much content whizzing around out there, there's only one storytelling platform that helps you keep calm and stay informed and inspired: Flipboard. Now, what is Flipboard, you ask? Flipboard curates the world's stories so you can be smarter in your work, life, and play. Choose from thousands of topics to personalize Flipboard and get the latest stories from the best publishers and experts delivered to you 24/7. Much like David's life and observation, you're definitely going to want to stay informed, so access, utilize, and work with Flipboard. Get started now at flipboard.com. Welcome to David's Life and Observation with your host, David Welch. Tonight's show is a little bit of a discussion on the varying complaint processes with law enforcement, how each entity handles their employee complaints, is what they call them, and my experience with Copper's Cove complaint system versus Corio County Sheriff's deputies, and a little bit about what I've seen kind of across the board. Each department varies in the way they conduct the complaint process. Some departments make it easy by having a complaint form that you can fill out and submit online, which I would assume a vast majority of people would prefer in this technical age. Some will provide you a form that you can handwrite and generate right there in their building. Some handle it by providing you a liaison, somebody to complain to, who is given the task of making the determination on where that complaint goes as far as the process to divvy out or assign the division or the department that will oversee the complaint, or if it only needs to go as far as a lecture from a supervisor to a subordinate. Now, I think all the processes are fantastic. The fact that they have a process is great. The better processes I've seen tend to be more objective, like the online form or the form you can take away from the building and come back with, a little bit more time to articulate yourself and gather your thoughts and compose your narrative and of the events, and maybe review video and align your narrative with what was taking place, or to just gather more information about your civil rights or whatever it is that you perceive was the violation. So that process to me is a little bit more objective, and then it hands it off to internal affairs, or it's assigned to a determining party, and that's honestly to me a better process that I've observed. The other processes, not so much. The process where you speak to a sergeant or a lieutenant directly and lodge your complaint with them, and they themselves make that determination on who goes what, where, and why. That to me is not a very accountability-driven format, whereas if you do submit the form electronically, or you submit it via writing and you have copies of the documents, you're able to then turn around and know if they're acting upon that information or not, based on the correspondence you receive and the reaction they get from the written word, or from the double accountability document style. Because it's one thing for someone to go in and talk to a sergeant who may not even remember your name tomorrow or write it down correctly, or if it's a use of force incident, maybe turn around and just throw that complaint away. Whereas if it's submitted in multiple formats and it's written down and it's legible to the point where everybody can read it and understand it, then that's honestly the best format when it comes to filing those complaints. Now, the unfortunate drawback to filing a complaint with an organization like law enforcement is you got two drawbacks. The first drawback is, one, we get to investigate ourselves, and that's shitty all the way around when it comes to accountability and integrity. And then two, the other drawback that you run into is, if someone's not there to handle the receipt of the information and you don't have a copy of it, they could easily say you never filed the complaint. Or, you're waiting months and weeks and days and they don't ever get back to you. That's because that sergeant turned around and threw his notebook paper away, or couldn't even reach you based on his or her lack of being able to understand what they wrote. So those are the drawbacks. I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible because my experience today with Coppers Cove PD and their complaint process was very fair and valid. However, I really wish they would have allowed me to have the police report and the documents I requested beforehand. I still don't have those documents, but I really wish they would have allowed me to have those documents, to have the audio recording, to have the visual recording. That way, I can make a more detailed complaint. However, with my information, my recordings that I was able to attain, and my recollection, I was able to sit down with the lieutenant and discuss with him the nature of the events, the allegations I'm asserting towards Cove PD, the human toll it has waged against my family and I because of the false arrest and because of the rights violations. And this was really acted upon because I sent an email to the chief. I was like, wait a minute, nobody's responded to my initial complaint. So, I talked to a sergeant before over the phone. I was lodging a complaint and realized that was the wrong process altogether. I was misinformed about how to go about filing a complaint with them. Whereas with the Coryell County Sheriff's deputies, it was exactly that. I called and told the lieutenant there, hey, I want to file a complaint. I don't see a complaint form online. What do I need to do? He said, hey, let me know what the allegations are. I'll put it down. I'll put it in the system. I'll get the deputies addressed, and we'll go from there, and I'll, provide you feedback. He never did give me a timeline of the feedback. He just said, hey, we'll be in touch. I said, okay. Now, for me, that's a little bit of upsetting because I don't have documented proof that, that complaint's going to go anywhere, that there's any accountability. Now, I'm not saying that the lieutenant I spoke with down at the sheriff's office is not going to do his due diligence, not going to address the issue, not raise and not properly document the complaint. However, the accountability process and the paper form process with the Cove PD was just a little bit more of a streamlined process, and a process that to me denotes more accountability. So that's what I received from my complaints today. But here are some other concerns I had. The other issue I had regarding the process for the complaint forms and the filing of the complaint is that whether it's sustained or not, they don't necessarily have to provide a disposition or an understanding of the or a documented result of the complaint. You can file a complaint all day, but they could turn around and give the officer a slap on the wrist even if they committed a serious crime, essentially, against another human being. Like we've seen it time and again in the news that officers go as far as committing murder, but in the eyes of their own agency, they did no wrong. And we all know, like, how could you even say that when there is documented proof of their blatant lies and perjury on the police report? And that's one thing that does not get sustained enough is perjury. One thing that is not, that I don't know, I just don't know why the lawyer community or I don't even know why we as a society don't put enough emphasis on perjury. Because time and again, more and more, these officers are told, and here's a boon to the officers. They are told, they are contracted to respond to every call. In every call they respond to with the mindset of, hey, I don't know exactly what I'm walking into. I'm walking into a call for service, whether it's a domestic dispute or whatever have you, or hey, handle this shoplifter or what have you. It doesn't matter. They're being called to respond to someone, something, or somehow of a crime, or there's some sort of violence going on. I mean, they respond to a myriad of different calls that range from, your very average cordial conversation to imminent death. So I do not begrudge them the idea that, hey, we have to go into a call with safety in mindset. I do, however, have a problem with treating everyone as a criminal. I do not believe that everybody is a criminal. I do not believe that they reserve the right to criminalize or trivialize people for merely standing up for their rights and standing up for what they believe is the truth of the given situation. Another glaring issue that I have with the law enforcement community by and large, when it comes to complaints or accountability, is the total lack of empathy they provide their community when it is found sustained that they did in fact fuck up. They will go out of their way to never admit fault, to deny the fuck up. One aspect of law enforcement and their control over accountability, I assert control because that's what it is. They control the narrative for the accountability. So when there's checks and balances in a system, there are mechanisms that are supposed to be in place to prevent egregious error and supposed to prevent rogue police officers, and that to develop a mentality that they can use, abuse, and betray their community and not be held responsible for their actions. Too many times we see that they don't actually care about the law. They don't care about rights. They don't care about human beings. What they care about is getting paid to exert power and collect money for the state, the city, the municipality, whatever entity gives them their paycheck. And accountability, integrity, and the law be damned. I mean, that is essentially the mentality a lot of these law enforcement officers walk around with. And I can imagine a law enforcement officer listening to this podcast one day and he's like, no fucking way. No, we're all about the law. We're all about doing our due diligence. But, I mean, look at the mentality and the nature behind their t-shirts, their slogans, the way they go about conducting themselves. I mean, they honestly adorn Punisher garb because not only do they think it's cool, motherfucker. Yeah, I'm on my way home. Yes, they're doing pickup. What? Yeah, your orange ball's in it, right? Yeah, it's your bag. I got it. What does he want? All right, see you, babe. Sorry about that, guys. There was a call that I had from my wife. Little brief interlude there. Um, where was I? Oh, yeah. I mean, they wear garb that says "Wolf amongst sheep." They wear garb with the Punisher logo on there. And what they don't really understand about Frank Castle is Frank Castle would have killed them too for being corrupt fuck-ups. He wouldn't have differentiated between thugs and gangsters and those who hurt the innocent and extorted them and was also against the law, like law enforcement officers. They align themselves with Templar Knights. It's apparent in their garb. They will have they have another one that has the Archangel Michael and Lady Justice adorning a large blade and scales and with a thin blue line. And I'm sorry, but that thin blue line is a desecration of the American flag. 1, 2. It denotes and speaks to a lack of accountability by being essentially a symbol of an organization that will back each other and do whatever it takes for each other only. They really honestly do, and they being law enforcement community, have a mentality of us versus them. Not a we serve the people, but we are the enforcers of the law, and the people be damned. They are our subjects. Our mantra is ask. Let's see, what is it? Ask, tell, make. Ask, tell, make. If that doesn't speak to an abuser mentality, then I don't know what does. I mean, look at the statistics. The statistics don't lie. Those who are in the law enforcement community have a higher average of domestic problems because they bring that shit home. They bring home I'm going to ask you to do something, then I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to fucking make you. Be my spouse or whatever, be damned. Fuck that fuck that mentality of I have to treat you fairly. Fuck that mentality that you have rights. I mean, imagine what these assholes go home and do to their kids. And it's no wonder why they get caught up in fucking stings themselves all the time. Raping women. There are so many reports of sexual offenses by officers that it floods those articles flood Facebook, flood, Instagram, and just have become a part of the natural news fabric. And it's like, Jesus, people that are supposed to be protecting and serving people are, prospecting and serving their interests. And it's disgusting. It's absolutely atrocious. You got these assholes that honestly believe that they're a station above everybody else. They dare call other people sovereign citizens, but they live that mantra. They live the whole we're above them. We don't have to live by the law. We are the law. I mean, it's that, Judge Dredd shit. We are the law. And they honestly fucking believe that shit. It's incredible. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, there's just the incredible lack of accountability, the incredible lack of a process to keep. Let me ask you this: how the fuck do you keep FBI agents and CIA agents accountable, or any of the intelligence agency people who have arrest powers, who have the ability to hunt down people and have money in quantities that are unreal to hunt people down and put them in cages, and they don't necessarily follow the law themselves? They don't necessarily do everything by the book. How the fuck are you going to keep them accountable? Who keeps them accountable? You can say we the people, but where's the reality in that? What's the reality say? The reality says, hey, unless someone files a complaint, I'm not going to raise the issue. And that's exactly what CCPD's chief admitted to. He said, hey, myself and my command staff have looked at the video that you've provided, that you posted on YouTube, but try and be in contact with a citizen they know is harmed by a situation by their officers who has been protesting a block and a half away from the police department, but, fuck him, right? Fuck him and his family. They don't care. Their goal is to get you in their cage for whatever trivial, thing that you may or may not have done. And that to them is a win. That to them is, hey, if we get you in one of our cages, your life is fucked for the next couple months, guaranteed. Whether you did something or not. There's a gentleman I saw on the news today, spent 39 years behind bars for a double murder he never committed. DNA exonerated him. Eyewitness statements recant. Ruined the guy's life, but he's getting $21 million. But there are people who don't get that luxury, that don't get the ability to have that money, who don't get to come home to their families. I mean, just imagine, a guy did 39 years behind bars for a crime he did not commit. Loved ones and everybody he knows has either moved on or died. And what does that leave him with? Having to pick up the pieces at an elderly age. I mean, what the fuck, people? It's horrible. Hey, going through the gate, so give me a second, guys. Going on to a military post. Going through the gate. Alrighty then, I'm back. So, that's essentially that's what I'm doing with the show today. Is really going after the accountability aspect, the integrity, and that's the root of what people are so angry about, is the lack of integrity, the lack of accountability, the lack of a process of accountability, a real process. I mean, when people commit a crime, They do not pass go. They go directly to jail. They're put in shiny bracelets. An officer commits a crime. They get paid vacation to set up their affairs until the process gets to the point where they actually indict the officer on charges. And even then, you have a judge and a prosecutor who don't have a reason to not support their fellow state employee. In fact, they do this to keep those relationships solid. They don't care about the actual law. They care about being paid. They care about keeping those relationships with the law enforcement community and the prison community so that they can receive those kickbacks, get invited to those luncheons, get invited to those special trainings that the department and the people of that city or county or state have to pay for. And it's a money grab. It's absolutely insane the amount of nonsense that exists and that is allowed to persist. Could you imagine this for a second? We saw on YouTube Live, a transgender woman get shot in the leg by a security guard. I'm talking hundreds of witnesses from across the United States and maybe even the UK see this go down. You have a law enforcement response where the law enforcement officer who first arrives on scene puts her in handcuffs and interrogates her as if she's the vagrant, as if she's the criminal. With hundreds of people flooding Los Angeles PD West and Beverly Hills PD phone systems to give a real life feedback pertaining to the situation and how unjust it was for the law enforcement officers to immediately come up and start cuffing someone. And granted, the call they got was, hey, this person's trying to break into a synagogue that happens to have all-female school with it. I get it. I definitely get that mentality. But when you have hundreds of people calling to say, hey, what they're doing to the actual victim is wrong, and why isn't the security guard in handcuffs? Same thing happens with an officer. Officer kills somebody. They don't go in handcuffs. It's okay, buddy. We got you. It's okay, buddy. Come sit here and, get checked out medically and make sure you're okay, but fuck the person you just shot up and, left brain dead on the floor and bleeding out. Fuck that person, right? I'm at my wit's end to try and understand where the breakdown is. Where's the breakdown? Well, let's explore that a wee bit. The breakdown for accountability in law enforcement is us, the American people. There are not enough community organizers, people who have the agency, the time, the energy to rally the city's people to combat a very well protected system. And that's unfortunate. we don't have enough lawyers with a moral compass willing to wage war against a corrupt justice system that they are, that they have a keen knowledge of, because it's not profitable to go against the grain. It's really not. What's profitable is keeping your clients as long as possible. Defense attorneys, if they are worth their salt and had the resources, because I know they're heavily underfunded. I know they don't have a team of researchers like a prosecutor does in a police department. I know that they are holding 30-something plus more cases than the average, prosecutor. What we do have, though, nowadays more than ever, is the accountability system called your camera and an audio recorder and voice recorders. We have that mechanism now. We have technology, thank God. Because look what happened in Houston. Houston police officers, not one of them had a body cam. You think that was a mistake on their part? No. They did that shit on purpose. They did that in case something went wrong. They already knew before going into the home that shit was going to go sideways. They already knew it. They had a plan in place to barge into the home where they've normally been met with no resistance. They barge into a home, break into a home, immediately shoot a dog, don't identify themselves as police officers, and then engage in a gun battle with the homeowner, who happened to have a little fucking weed. That was it. And some sort of powdery substance that I know the labs have come back on that, and it's probably not anything to do with speed, cocaine, anything. It's probably fucking drywall. No accountability. Body cams are a good step. Amazing step towards accountability. I applaud that program. Now, here's where the lack of accountability happens with that program. One, I don't know why they made it this way, but those officers have the ability to turn on and off their body cameras. I get it. Not every incident requires you to record, or how should I word this? Not every second of the day requires you to have a camera on to observe your actions. But, and I know the battery life on those joints do not last a long time. 3-4 hours max when you got a 8-hour shift, plus you got to consider data storage of the video and the recharging the batteries, or recharging your camera. I get it. I really do. And we need cameras that are small, portable, easy to use, attachable to an officer, that run for an entire shift, up to 8 to 9 hours, and record continuously, or at least have the capacity to store that length of time of film. Another deal about the body cameras is you could not, there are people who don't even touch an officer, but you see the flailing of the body cam, and it makes it look like there's a lot of action going on when in fact they're not doing anything. So there is that. And the mechanism for responsibility. The mechanism for accountability is just not there. So even that program falls well short, even though body camera has been integral in bringing down some corrupt officers. It's been amazing what has been caught on video versus what has been alleged in writing. Accountability. Dash cameras are great. We're getting to the point now where we're going to be like Russia, where everybody has a dash camera. It just is part of the fabric of being, because it's an accountability process. It's an accountability thing. They have the dash cam just in case something goes south and sideways. They are important. We are going to get to the point where we as civilians and people who just have everyday lives, we're going to need a black box in our own vehicles. We're going to get into the point where we need to record all of our situations, because could you imagine if the transgender woman didn't have her camera running on live at the moment she was shot in the leg? She could have been in jail for prison for a very, very long time. And that would have been so unfortunate. And we've have cases of people who have faced that, who are right now in this very instant behind bars for a crime they didn't commit, for an action that may have been escalated by a law enforcement officer or someone else, and there's no accountability. There's no... I'm a firm believer if the attorney, the judge, and the law enforcement officers make a mistake that affects someone's life to the point where, they're given a life sentence, or they're given, harsh and cruel and unusual treatment for years because of withholding evidence or, faulty investigation, they should be held accountable. This whole qualified immunity bullshit is exactly that. It's bullshit. They wrote that in for themselves. They wrote in a way, say, because if it was the other way around, if they didn't have qualified immunity, or if they couldn't blanketly say that to people, they would have quantifiably more lawsuits on their hands. And even that process is a fucking headache. I'm telling you from personal experience that trying to file a lawsuit pro se is a headache. It involves research, legal writing, and learning court process, learning what the process is in general. And it's not taught in schools, not high school. And I'm a firm believer that this information is pertinent to an individual right in high school. So let's keep it moving with that whole idea of accountability. Reach out to me if you want to discuss this topic. If you have feedback for me at dwelch9627@gmail.com. In the subject heading, put David's life and observation response, and put the episode number in there. That'd be great. Or just the episode title, and that'd be awesome. if you have something in your life that you're dealing with and it's a lack of accountability issue, please, please, please get your story out there. You have a lot of mechanisms yourself with social media and friends and family and cameras and whatnot, but sorry guys, don't stop there. File complaints. Do what you have to do to get yours, to get compensated for the injustice against you. Officers, law enforcement, congressmen, Justice Department, federal agents, everybody is not beyond reproach. They are not. And if it takes a lawsuit a day from someone, which would be outrageously expensive, but if it gets to the point where the federal court is just flooded with federal civil rights lawsuits because people are just at their wits' end with enough bullshit from law enforcement officers. You know, if you ruffle enough feathers, you rattle enough cages, and you affect their money. So if you start taking money from the Justice Department and you start putting it in the hands of the citizenry, they will change. It's all a money conversation. You redirect the money, you penalize cities, not even cities. You penalize the organization. You penalize the unions. You know, drag them into the fight. They could say, oh no, we're a separate entity. No, they're not. They have a stake. They have a vested interest in the outcome of litigation, so they should be directly affected. They have influence, they launch investigations, and they have arrest power. So they should absolutely be tied into the lawsuit. Any lawsuit. And it's to the point where, yeah, I would say go after pensions. If you fuck up bad enough to where you cost somebody a life or you irreparably damage their family structure in some sort of way, and it was a false arrest, or you violated their rights, or you put them in the hospital and they can't, pay their medical bills, and that leads into, being lost, having a lost job, which leads into, other mechanisms, and it's a trickle down, or it's a domino effect of shit that happens to people. When I was held in the mental facility for 3 days, that was a potential loss of job. That was I lost money because I had to get a sub for my class. I lost my kids for 6 months. I lost my wife for 30 days in a mental institution. I was losing my mind. All because of a false arrest by Officer Bartlett. And he knows he made a false arrest. It's apparent. The Corio County Sheriff's deputies said it plain as day in their video, in their body cam, in their discussion with Coppers Cove Police Department. And this is regarding my case. But I'm going to leave you guys at that. I'm going to leave you guys to ponder accountability. And please give me feedback on ways that we can better keep people in the law enforcement community or criminal justice community accountable. And what those penalties should be against the law enforcement agency, not just the individual officer, because they'll use him as a scapegoat all day. And they'll always come out and say, oh, that doesn't reflect the standards and the behavior of other officers. Bull fucking shit. We need to hit him in the wallet. We need to hit him with, hey, we're ending the contract with you, Coppers Cove PD. We have another Coppers Cove PD potential group of people that want to give it a go, who have post certifications. We're gonna fire everybody with this title and develop a new structure for this new entity that declares they will do the right thing by the city. Make it a competitive thing. Police departments always figure, hey, well, they have to give us money. They have to have a police force. No, the fuck they don't. You do not have to have a police force in a city. You can relegate that to the deputies and fund the deputies. Put them to work. But that's it for today's date. Today is, what fucking day is it? Tuesday, February 26th. It's that much closer to the end of the month, and I look forward to everybody's feedback. Please check out my YouTube channel, David the Sun Devil, on YouTube, or you can simply type in Copper's Cove False Arrest. And I also have another podcast. If you listen to iTunes, or if you have iHeartRadio, look for Create a Cast with me as your host. I go over creative writing, poetry, fiction, nonfiction, and I cover different writing topics each week and try to showcase the work of unpublished and published authors. Again, this is David's Life and Observation. You are on Anchor right now, and blasting through the airwaves as well is Spreaker Studio, which is another platform that I showcase this show on, and I look forward to hearing from you. Please, please, please shoot me an email, dwelch9627 at gmail.com. In the subject heading, again, put David's Life and Observation, and give the episode that you want to respond to and the content of your discussion. Can't wait to hear from you. Have a wonderful day.